What is up, bros? Josh here. In today's video, we are previewing the Tier 7 Premium Italian cruiser, the Gorizia. Now, throughout this video, I will be comparing it to the Tier 7 Tech Tree version of this ship, which is the Zara, since this one is available to people who have gotten it through the Italian event and will be part of the upcoming Italian cruiser line, which I think overall has been met with some pretty mediocre reviews. And the Gorizia is kind of a continuation of that. This is a mediocre of a mediocre ship. So we've seen this type of ship, even if we just click back and forth between the Gorizia and the Zara. The ships are basically identical in a lot of ways, even visually, although this is a premium version of the ship, and they do trade off some small things here and there, which we'll get to in the stats. We've seen situations like this before with Admiral Hipper, the Tech Tree Tier 8 German cruiser, and the Prince Eugen, the Tier 8, which have kind of came out this way, where it was basically the same ship with a little bit of trade-off here and there. Then the Eugen was then later given a heel, so who knows what will happen with this ship. The Gorizia is currently work in progress. These stats are subject to change, and I hope they do change because, man, this is a pretty limp noodle when it comes to playing this ship, and you will see in the gameplay. However, though, let's dive into some stats and compare it to the Tier 7 Tech Tree counterpart, and then dive into some gameplay and show what kind of this ship struggles to really do. However, though, 37,100 hit points, which is actually pretty solid. If you look at the Zara, it's basically the same thing. There's no real trade-off there, and a lot of these stats are going to be the same. Again, torpedo protection is 19 points, but the prime of this ship is the SAP that, if you've played these ships, you know is completely underwhelming. The SAP, although an interesting idea, hasn't really delivered and is pretty underwhelming. Main battery, 4x2, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and then 203 millimeters with a 16.5-second reload. None of that's affected by anything other than adrenaline rush, which this captain has. And then a 15.6 kilometer range, which is okay for Tier 7, a decent velocity. And again, 0% fire chance because it is SAP, but a nice pen of 54 millimeters. However, though, long reload on that, 16.5 seconds. Comparing that to the Zara, which is a little bit faster. So you have less damage output than the Zara does. However, though, the Zara does have a little bit less range. So at 16.1, actually, sorry. Oh, this is the Duca. Oops, click on the Duca. Duca's the good ship out of the Tier 7. I mean, the Zara even has a little bit more range, so faster reload and faster guns. Yeah, it's kind of weird when you look at the Abruzzi, which I think is relatively okay, as being the standout compared to all these. However, though, Grazia has less range and less DPM on that reload. AA, though, even less AA than the Zara as well. So that's a bit of a bummer there. So not really seeing what we bring to the table with this ship. And as we go to torpedoes, oh hey, there aren't torpedoes. So the Zara has torpedoes, the Italian long-range slow torpedoes with a fast reload. The Gorizia doesn't have those. Also, the rest of the stats are relatively close to identical, same detection, as well as, I think this is a little bit faster by 1 kilometer. Also, you do have one thing that's a bit different. It gives you an advantage, which is the Gorizia has a hydroacoustic search, which the Zara does not. So, man, if you want something to kind of stand out with this ship, you definitely do want that hydro, because other than that, the Zara 1v1 is going to beat you, and yeah, there's not much you can really do, but at least, hey, it's a premium ship, so you'll earn a little bit more, right? So checking the upgrades, we were rocking the steering gears, as well as aiming system mod 1, prop mod 1, and the main armament mod 1, as just to show you that none of these were affected by stats. Basically all the same thing there as on the Zara, except we took out prop instead on this one. That won't really affect anything. As for captain on this is what we're running here. Kind of a weird build. I will be doing a build video for my build series. If you're ever interested in that, I'll put a link down below to all my captain builds. I will do an Italian episode. I'll probably release it closer to 8.10 when the entire line is released, so it's a little bit easier for everyone. But look forward to that. The Italian line, though, without having HE, is a little bit weird with its captain builds, and so this is kind of what I'm running right here. This is a 19-point captain. Luckily, with Italian ships, I feel like you don't really need a high-level captain. Things I highly recommend are things like expert loader, obviously concealment expert, and then superintendent. Other than that, you can kind of backfill with a lot of lower points, which is actually kind of nice. They're good quality of life skills. This is the captain build we are running throughout this. But anyways, let's dive into some gameplay and show you how kind of this ship is very underwhelming on already is in my opinion, a very underwhelming line. So here we are in game with the Grazia, and actually we have some pretty good matchmaking, and this is kind of the, I would say almost the sad part about this, is you will see how really inefficient we are at basically doing everything. So if you haven't played the Italian lines, what they do bring is they actually bring some pretty fun stuff to this table. I think if they just had normal HE and normal HE and AP instead of this SAP, I think they'd kind of be a standout line, and I think they'd be relatively fun. They're fairly maneuverable. The detection is okay, but they bring these kind of, well, the tech trees at least, bring some pretty cool torps, which are these long range, fast reloading, great torp angles, and they're relatively slow, but they're kind of aerial denial. And they also bring this really cool smoke. So as you see, the smoke looks completely different there as the T consumable. And with that, normally smoke is created behind you as the ship, and then it takes a little while to then surround the ship. This one is almost kind of like a Dark Rider, Lord of the Rings style smoke of a where you can actually go in and then it surrounds the ship instantly, so you kind of disappear. However, though, it kind of works against the ship since smoke firing penalties tend to be on what the caliber size is. So these ships are 203s, and so the smoke penalty is relatively high, but it does actually give you kind of a fun gameplay. That is that you can actually do some damage to. So here's the Genova right there, and we're going to switch to AP, but just by itself, if this ship had HE and AP, I think it would be a relatively fun line. The 203s are at a disadvantage, and I think one of the big disadvantages, the upside of this SAP ammo that has been brought in by the Italian ships, is that it's kind of good against things that other things are better at. And what I mean by that is you are extremely good against certain cruisers and destroyers. If you hit a destroyer with your SAP, like, there's been plenty of people who have said they have one shot with the tier 10, which is currently work in progress as well, and the higher tier ones. But so many of the tech tree ships themselves have, it's a slow reload on an ammo that doesn't really do a lot. So it's kind of just an overall bummer all around. And now this is basically just a worse version of a tech tree ship that is already pretty mediocre. So that's why I kind of referenced the Admiral Hipper Prince Eugen, as that was a situation of, it was basically just a premium version of the ship. Then it offered maybe a little bit of AA here, a little bit of range difference there, but nothing really that much. This is just kind of a straight up worse version. And it doesn't really bring anything to the table other than this amazing hydro that isn't like really even that good. Like, even in that situation that Ismail is pushing decap, and if I was in the Zara, I could have dumped torps on that. With this ship, I can't really do anything, so I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to get wrecked and just rotate, I'm going to rotate over and try to help out with these DDs because that's what I'm best at. But overall, I think the Italian cruisers themselves are really lacking in identity of what they're supposed to do. If they're supposed to be this line that is good against cruisers and destroyers by using this SAP ammo, then, why other ships just do it better? I mean, if I'm a tier 7, I would much rather play a Helena, or much rather play a Boise, or much rather play basically USN ships. There hasn't really been that many salvos that I've been like impressed with this SAP ammo. It's just it's, I don't know, very, very, very underwhelming. It seems to be relatively bad against battleships, which is kind of the weird thing, because you tend to do, as a cruiser, tend to do pretty well against battleships. But with inertia fuse here, it's like, why would you bring this over anything else? And then, really, why would you bring this premium ship? Let's just keep that going over. And here's a good example of kind of what the smoke does. It's an instant, basically cloaking device, if you will, where you could get in and kind of get away from damage. So, but yeah, overall, I think that it's, I don't know. I think overall the Italian line isn't strong, and I think this is a kind of laughably, I guess it's very appropriate for what the Italian ships are right now. Very, very weak in most situations, and this is a perfect premium ship for it, is that it's fairly weak. Just really, I don't know. As I said earlier in this video, when you think of tier 7 ships, I think of the Abruzzi as being the best one. And it's kind of funny because I think the Abruzzi, although not known as being incredibly good, is known as being okay. And if an okay ship is kind of the standout compared, again, another great example of wanting to have torps even in this spot, it's weird that you are wishing you were playing a okay at best ship compared to these new ships. But I don't want this to be an entire like roast of Italian cruisers. I kind of want to focus on this ship, but it's really just straight up a underwhelming ship. SAP on this ship is slower than the tech tree ship. The range is shorter than the tech tree ship. So the DPM that is already kind of mediocre is you know, not there. Like, imagine how much damage I would be doing if I was in literally any other tier 7 cruiser. Even if I was in a York, imagine how much more damage I would have already done by now, having that 203. So it's a bit of a bummer, really trying to have an impact on this cruiser. I'm trying to just hold down this middle part because I know these DDs. I'll have the hydro. I could have hopefully a big salvo and kind of push them out. But again, I feel like these ships kind of offer, you know, something that other ships don't, in the way that, or I feel like they kind of lack that. Honestly, I don't. It's a very weird line, as you see with kind of my jumbling of words, as I try to find some kind of shining point of like, hey, this is why these ships and this ship is all right. But hey, I'm bringing this ammo type, as you see right there, that is supposed to be extremely good against DDs, and a Mahan, which again, I am top tiered and struggling to have an impact, ricocheted all my shells. Now, broadside, we do a little bit of decent damage, but imagine if I was in a Miyoko. Imagine if I was in, I'm trying to list off some of, in my opinion, I would say some of the weaker tier 7 cruisers are. Imagine if I was in anything else right now, how much more damage I would be doing. So a nice little salvo right there. That's what we're supposed to be good at, and we do hit him at that. But I did think that I think I even said that on stream, and we play these all live, twitch.tv/mejash. Come check us out. Imagine being what you're supposed to be good at, or going against what you're supposed to be good at, and bouncing 3 shells that are supposed to be with a 54mm pen, by the way, and bouncing that on a destroyer. So that is, you can see, kind of my my thing. Also, spotter plane is relatively nice on these. They tend to have a fairly short range, but this is something that we couldn't quite get over because the trajectory is relatively low, and I think we just snagged this guy just barely. I mean, it's fairly accurate, as you can see right there, but still overall, man, I wish I had torps right here, because look how many situations we would have had of torps. So the Zara is something that, man, I feel like is kind of missing out. Or compared to the Zara, that's what it's missing out. I'd love to just have torps, but you need kind of something to make this ship worth anything. Already the Zara, completely underwhelming, as I've said before. This one is one that is going to be expected people to pay money for. So that's why I feel like there's no way in hell this ship is finalized. We could even see kind of a late, like maybe a backburnered version of this where we don't see it for a while, and then we see kind of a Prince Eugen where maybe it gets a heal or maybe some things there. But yeah, also Russian battleships are basically counters to these, it seems like, because you just don't get any damage because the superstructures tend to be so small on them, and it's hard to really pump in a lot of damage on that. At least that's from what I've seen, that the Italian cruisers really struggle against the majority of battleships, but totally Russian battleships is what I've seen kind of weak here. But again, I don't want this to be a tire roast, but as you see right here, this ship is not fun to play. Did not enjoy playing this ship. I don't really enjoy playing this line, and I really wish that something was, I could beep. I like the smoke. The smoke is cool. I think that's kind of something that could probably put this and make this line stand out just by itself, is the smoke. But overall, it's hard to find a positive with not only this line, but especially this ship. So luckily, it's still work in progress. Again, these stats are subject to change, and hopefully they will change before they go live. But yeah, it's tough to find a positive here. But overall, as you see, we've been kind of in the action. We've been firing almost on cooldown, but overall, it is it's a struggle. It is a struggle to get anything done, and that is a bummer for me. But even on good matchmaking too, this one was a ship I didn't really play that much, and I think this was our best game. I think we played 3 games in the one stream, and this was our best game in that little session with this ship. But it was a spot where I just I didn't want to play it anymore. I didn't want to play this ship anymore. So I'm kind of interested in what they'll do. They could maybe make it like they could give it a nice little buff on its reload. But kind of looking forward after post buff, whatever buff they end up giving it to. Nice little corpse bar Marblehead here. I don't think anything's behind us, and I thought this guy maybe was a bot. But what will they do with this ship? Well, probably the easiest thing is probably giving it a DPM increase, which would be a buff to its reload. They could even give it the torps, who knows? But is the ship still going to be anything that is worth anything? I really don't think so. I just don't really see a point, again, in this line. I really don't see a point in what this ship can kind of bring to the table compared to other stuff. And here you're going to see kind of a derp off Italian versus Italian. Here we go. We'll see the 203s versus this, and we should hopefully just absolutely wreck them, right? With these big 203s. 203s on the broadside Italian ship, no big deal. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that damage. Look at that damage. Easy peasy. But yeah, I have to actually worry because he has AP. I don't. I bounce this SAP, very effective ammo type, and into this brawl we go. I think I end up actually citadeling him on one of these next salvos. But again, what I kind of hope happens is I hope that we get some kind of DPM buff. I think they could really build off. There, we get one citadel. I think they could really build off just the smoke in general, and I feel like with that too, they could kind of make a fun little agile, sketchy plane line. But I don't know. I feel like the Italian line has an uphill battle going forward. I really don't see what this line does well. I feel like I've just said that a ton of times this video, and I apologize. But it's it's like all I can really talk about because the gameplay is boring, the ship is boring, the ammo type is boring, and there's not much that's really positive coming from, I guess, me with this ship, at least at tier 7. Tier 7, in my opinion, I think has some prime premium ships. I mean, some prime maps. I think, in my opinion, tier 7 has some of the best maps in this game and some of the most fun gameplay in the game. And to have this ship, as again, we ricochet SAP ammo on a glass, remember 54mm pen, and we're ricocheting on a glass, so that's always fun to see. And yeah, kind of missing the point with this, not sure what we're supposed to do, and the rest of this game is kind of just, I think we just end up capping. I think I do a little bit more damage with this, but 3 kills so far. We were basically in the fight. We tried to do as much damage as we could, and this is about all we could do. This is about all we really could do. So but yeah, I wish they would have, again, it's basically just a weaker version of the Zara, which again is already kind of a mediocre ship at tier 7. I would say instantly this goes in as bottom of the barrel for tier 7s if they were to release it like this. I doubt they will, since it's still work in progress. I imagine we'll see some pretty significant buffs to it to maybe make this ship stand out. And as we dodge these torps really quick, no big deal. See, we have that hydro. That's what we bring to the table here with this, is we bring that hydro. And yeah, so I imagine we'll see some pretty significant buffs. I hope, at least, because I always like having premium ships like this have something to make them worth getting. We could also see this being, as I've talked about this on stream a few times, it's about time we get a new mid-tier free XP ship. So like the Nelson is right now, the Nelson's available for free XP. We haven't seen one of those for a while, so we could see something like that. And then if it is like that, it kind of is okay to be mediocre, I guess. So maybe if they release it that way, we could see something there. But yeah, even getting top or bottom tiered, it's even more brutal. So imagine just the situation is taking more damage and being harder to do anything. It can be relatively rough. I mean, we got top tiered, tier 7 top tier, and we struggled to make 60,000 damage. We didn't even get it this game. So again, it's just it's tough. It's tough to be a really I don't know where they go with this line. I feel like SAP ammo is a type of ammo type overall that will haunt this line. I feel like it's if they tweak it one way too much, then it gets too strong, and if they tweak it the other way, it's too weak. And I feel like we're definitely there, but we haven't really seen any buffs to the Italian line, and so unless this thing gets kind of just normal HEAP, I feel like it's going to struggle and kind of be held down by said SAP ammo and just its inability to really compete. So the Zara, again, at tier 7. If you're looking for a tier 7 Italian cruiser, the Zara is just going to be a better version currently. You can get that through the Italian event, through the missions. So if you do get, or you can wait till the next patch and you can get it just through the tech tree ship normally. The Gorizia, though, pretty underwhelming. An underwhelming premium ship for an underwhelming line, and yeah, that's kind of all we have right here. The rest of this game is just us capping this out, but yes, very repetitive. I know, I apologize for me, guys, but it's basically all I have to say about this. I think the overall Italian line missing an identity, and I think this this premium ship is a perfect showing of what kind of the Italian line is. It's just, you're not quite sure what's going on, and you kind of miss a point overall with what this line is supposed to be. But anyways, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.